From beautiful Santa Anita Park, the site of show jumping and dressage, and from the splendid Fairbanks Ranch Country Club in Rancho Santa Fe, the scene of the spectacular endurance phase of the three-day event, ABC Sports presents highlights of the 1984 Equestrian Olympics, the most successful ever for the United States equestrian team. The 1984 Olympic equestrian event started at Santa Anita Park with the dressage phase of the three-day event, the first of three competitions constituting a complete test for horse and rider. The second, the endurance phase, would take place at Fairbanks Ranch, and the third, show jumping, back at Santa Anita. The dressage tested the precision and elegance of the horse and rider. Hans-Ueli Schmutz of Switzerland was the best of the 48 starters. He ended up 10 points ahead of the field, which was a spectacular achievement. He had exactly what the judges were looking for. His horse was supple and powerful and obeyed absolutely every command his rider gave him. The horses and riders moved 100 miles south to Fairbanks Ranch for the endurance competition. Chris Schenkel, Bill Steinkraus, and Tad Coffin reported.
This is the largest crowd I have ever seen on a golf course anywhere in the world. This is the Fairbanks Ranch Country Club. It is not a golf tournament. This par 72-hole beautiful golf course has been transformed into a difficult 4.5 mile cross-country course for the second phase of the equestrian three-day event. The United States team has the lead after dressage.
That's right, Chris. There's only a 20 to 30 point aggregate lead by the United States team over a very strong Swedish team, the European champions, another strong French team, and the world champion British team. When you consider that under the scoring rules, this day counts for 3 times as much as the other 2 days put together, you can see that that lead is just paper thin. And another way of putting it is to say today, it's on the line, starting with your neck.
Okay, and Tad, give us a rider's viewpoint of this test.
Well, Chris, I think it's a track that deserves a lot of respect. There are a lot of big jumps out there. You need a horse with a lot of power. He's got to be able to give some of those fences a lot of room. It's also a course that requires a great deal of concentration on the part of the rider, and a mistake here can be very costly, not to mention the fact that you can really get hurt out here. The first refusal at any fence is going to cost 20 points. A fall of a horse or rider is going to cost 60 points, which is really quite a lot. And also there are points given for time penalties. If you exceed the time limit of 13 minutes, you get 0.4 points taken off for each second.
And we must remember that men and women compete on an equal basis here in the equestrian events. Now you're looking at one of the eventing stars here at Fairbanks Ranch. Live, comprehensive coverage for the first time in the United States of the exciting endurance test, the cross-country phase. Virginia Holgate of Great Britain standing 7th. And that, Bill, is great position now for the second phase.
Well, Virginia has a real chance to win an individual medal. She's been one of the stars of the sport. She's going first as the trailblazer for the British team, not always the most advantageous position for somebody trying for an individual medal, but she's going to be very, very interesting to watch.
Now, Tad, they've had a veterinary check after the first 3 phases here, and she's in the starting box just waiting for the flag to go up and her opportunity to take off in this course that goes 4.5 miles, and she's away.
That's right, Chris. In the vet box, they're just checked by a panel of veterinarians to make sure that they're fit and sound enough to keep going on this course.
First fence are the redwood logs.
And they've already gone 11.5 miles before they've gotten to this point. This is a real marathon.
Bill Steinkraus, that gives you an idea of roads and tracks steeplechase.
Yes, very compressed here, actually, because ordinarily, even in the Olympic courses that used a golf course, then they went off the golf course somewhere else and did the roads and tracks there. This is just winding around Fairbanks Ranch, and it's very compressed and a wonderful audience here.
As you can see, the course is also quite twisty, which makes it a little hard to keep a good pace to be able to make the time. 13 minutes is the time that you're allowed, and as you can see, all of that twisting and turning makes it a little difficult.
Virginia Holgate still out on the course, one of the favorites, 7th, coming into this phase the toughest.
Yes,
a great
and this is
physical
the water
test.
complex here. Jumps in very well. Cantering through the water up the first waterfall. Neatly done. Up the second waterfall. Quick turn to the left. Neatly out over the vertical.
Tad, if position of ears have anything to do with the alertness of a horse, Priceless was very alert.
He is. He's just that kind of horse.
Yeah. And so is Ginny. She's sitting just the way she wants to sit, and so far things are going just according to plan for her.
And of course, as an individual rider, the team competition, the British team, as Bill, you've pointed out, is very strong. Hayrack, no problem.
Yeah, they're the world champions. Of course, you get to discard at the end of the 3 phases your worst score if all 4 riders have finished. So it's going to be a very, very close competition if this course rides well today, and it looks as if it's going to.
This is a big jump here, Chris. This is the ski jump. It's a 6-foot drop, 2 short strides later, up onto another bank. Difficult for a tired horse. Let's see if she handles this one. Takes down the drop, lets her rein slide a little bit, up onto the bank, and neatly done.
Oh, they know one another, don't they?
They
what a
sure do.
combination.
And that horse thinks on his feet so quickly.
Now, this is not necessarily a young man's sport. 44-year-old Mike Plum.
And he just jumped fence number 6, which is a big, wide, open ditch filled with water. And the next fence he's coming to is one of the most difficult on the course. It's fence number 7. It's a bridge with a pond in front of it and a pond behind it. And Mike is very close through
really?
there. That horse was brilliant. Jumped right up onto the bridge and fired off over that vertical, made it look like nothing.
That's Bluestone, 11-year-old Gray Gelding, Irish bred.
And he's not a very experienced horse. I'm impressed by that.
Virginia Holgate, what a performance here.
Ginny is really having fun today. She had a really good trip. She's just thrilled. She's looking at her watch to see how she compares to the optimum time of 13 minutes. But she let him run and jump the last part of it there, Tad.
She sure did, and I would guess that she's only about 15, 20 seconds off the time, which for the first rider out is an incredible performance.
And
it's usually the first rider out that is the trailblazer and just goes around to get a good score, but that's an excellent score for the first ride.
And let me tell you, Priceless deserved a great pat on the back. From the United States here at Fairbanks Ranch, this is Michael Plum, standing 16th, coming into the competition today.
That's right, Chris, and he's coming in to the waterfall complex. This is 4 jumps in a row. Comes in over a big vertical. Nicely done. Canters through the water. For the first time ever, jumping up over a waterfall makes it look like nothing. Another easy jump there. Very well done. Very well done.
You know, the equestrian sport, dressage, all the elegance, all the cooperation, Grand Prix jumping, beautiful, but this is the physical test in the equestrian sport. The cross country, the second phase of the 3-day event, and Michael Plum, the most experienced in this field of 48, 7th Olympic Games.
Horse is looking a little tired there, Chris. Instead of clearing that whole fence, he jumped right on top of it.
Yeah, he banked off of it.
He's just gone beyond 9 minutes now, with the optimum time being time to be 13. Michael Plum.
Yeah, he's not going quite the lick that Virginia Holgate was going with Priceless.
I think Mike's going to need to be real careful from here on in. When the horses get tired, they don't jump as well, and he's coming up to one of the biggest fences on the course. It's the ski jump, and it's a huge drop. 2 short strides later, up onto a bank. Let's see how he handles it. Keep our fingers crossed.
As you say, physical Chris. It really is like taking punches to take these big drops.
Well, Mike is doing an excellent job of nursing him around. The horse looks tired, but Mike is such an accurate and strong rider. He can put the horse exactly where he needs to be and manage to get by.
Bill, the best round today, Virginia Holgate, not surprisingly, of Great Britain.
She's a real good rider, and she's been on a European Championship team and on a World Championship team, and she's got a real shot at a medal with that score of 56.8. Mike, I think, might be somewhat slower. Virginia was saying, come on to him the last part of the course. Mike is nursing this horse around a little bit, saying, be careful, don't do something silly.
You can tell by the position of his ears, they're back most of the time, and that starts to mean that the horses are getting tired. They've gone 11.5 miles before they get to the cross-country course, and it's a 16-mile total marathon. And this horse, unfortunately, is looking like he's feeling the distance, but Mike doesn't have very many fences to go. I think he can get him around.
First of the 4 American 3-day eventers that have come out here on this testing course. Oh, he went through the window.
Yeah. Mike reorganized very carefully. He's really being careful with his horse. He doesn't want to make a mistake these last couple of fences.
That was called the mission wall. Here's the fallen monarch. Look at the size of that redwood. More than 3 feet in diameter, trucked down from Northern California.
Now Mike's going to let him go on a little bit more. His time is 12:38 right at the moment. The time for the course is 13 minutes.
Listen to these fans.
He's not going to make the time, but he's going to be real close to it. And I think the Americans are going to be on their way to a good show here. Getting the first person around with a good score like Mike's getting is just what they wanted to have happen.
That's exactly right. I think tactically they're very satisfied.
Jumped that well.
He is overtime, of course, but that'll be time penalty points, but not that big or drastic, Bill.
0.4 points per second.
Right. Michael Plumb of the United States telling Bluestone that he did a good job, that 11-year-old gray gelding here at Fairbanks Ranch. Virginia Holgate, 56.8, followed by Ian Stark, her teammate, and then the United States' Michael Plumb. Look at big Ben Arthur and Karen Stives of the United States.
And he's got his ears back because he's got flop ears, Chris. He can't hold them up very much except for just brief periods of time.
Watch him jump this very wide spread fence. He'll make it look like nothing.
Yeah.
Leaves out a stride, clears it on the other side, makes it look like it's just a little mound.
All right, Karen Stives of the United States.
This little kind of trappy stuff is more difficult for him, I think, than the big jumping thing. See how she does that? She regulates him way back, you can see.
He's a big, strong horse for a little rider. Twists a little bit there, but he's so clever.
When he gets to Ghost Town, he's just going to skip through there. A lot of horses have been struggling trying to get through the Ghost Town because well, it'll be interesting to see what he does. Most of them, they come back too much.
And here at Fairbanks Ranch, you're looking at the Ghost Town obstacle. It's more than one. There are several choices here, and soon Karen Stives of the United States will make her choice. Which window will she go through, Ted?
I think she'll go through the window on the left, Chris.
Karen Stives, third, following the dressage, coming into the cross-country phase of the 3-day event. And here she is now.
We've seen some other horses make this look pretty difficult. 6-foot wide table, out over the oxer, very neatly done.
She has to shorten his stride for the table, actually. Everybody else is kind of reaching to get there.
She wants to beat the time, the optimum time being 13 minutes, 4.5 miles.
We haven't had anybody right on it yet, although we had Virginia Holgate within 0.4.
And that was a huge jump that she just made over there. It's called Watt's Wall. It's a very solid wall, and in front of it, a 5-foot wide ditch. She's coming into the waterfall complex now, fences 20 through 24. She's coming up to the big vertical. They have a choice in. Jumps in very strongly there. She almost came off.
That was a little bobble. This stuff, he's just got a full head of steam. And he's saying, let me do this stuff. You just
But she's got to be careful. She's really pressing him for a...
Yeah.
Listen to these fans.
She's really pressing him to go fast, and she made a little bobble on the water there. She asked for a big jump. He gave it to her, but he almost lost his balance on the landing. And if she's not real careful, she might stand on her head here someplace.
You know, if there are any fantasies in life, I'm sure a lot of our viewers would say, beautifully done. And they'd like to do this event, Tad. They'd love to be up on a horse like Ben Arthur and give it a try.
Well, I'd like
but
to
don't try it until you've spent a lot of years practicing, right, Bill?
Yeah, I think that the task now for Karen is to hold this horse together a little bit. As he starts to get a little bit tired, just as Tad says, she's got to really...
How will she do it?
Well, she's going to do it the best she can, right? He's a lot bigger and stronger than she is.
Okay.
And that's the difficulty, that he doesn't start to get a little bit sprawly. He just wasn't as good through the waterfalls as he should have been.
Here she's coming to the ski jump.
Oh, big.
She ought to sit back here.
And he bellies that a little bit, but he's still
going
on
like
his
a
feet,
tiger.
still going.
Yeah, he's going like a tiger, really. But as he gets tired, it's harder and harder for her to hold him together.
He skied through that one, Tad.
He did ski through that one.
He certainly did.
You know, Karen is so aggressive cross country. If anybody can make the time and let it all hang out and really go for the money, it's Karen.
Well, she's an awfully tough competitor. I mean, we know the severity of a couple of the falls she's had, and she just came right back from that as if it were nothing.
That's a usable time, about the same as Ian Stark of Great Britain.
She really is through the toughest part of the course now. There is not too much that'll trip her up from here on. I shouldn't say that, because the minute you do, then disaster strikes. But they look very good at this point.
Tad, she may weigh 105, but Ben Arthur had to carry 165 pounds across that obstacle.
That's correct, and it's a lot harder on a horse to carry dead weight than live weight.
Only 2 fences to home, and she's got more than a minute to do it, and I think she's going to be right around the optimum time, Tad.
All right, watch at the bottom of your screen the clock, and they want to beat the clock. The optimum time of 13
she's
minutes.
Going to make it,
One
Chris.
from home. Here she comes, right behind us now,
And
heading for the
has a lot
flowers.
of gallop.
Flag and Flowers coming up.
A very aggressive ride.
All right, she has about 45 seconds to make it. And that would be the first under the optimum time, Tad.
And you know what that does? That moves the United States ahead of Great Britain, because they had 120.4 penalty points for 2 horses, and we would have, if she's clear, 115.6 penalty points. So that keeps us right there.
Clear and under the time.
And individually, of course, she takes the lead.
This
And she's gonna-
33-year-old equestrian. Oh,
She is 20 seconds under the time, and nobody has done that, and she's really put the pressure on the 2 in front of her, Hans Whaley Schmutz from Switzerland, and also from Bruce Davidson.
Those are the penalty points, ladies and gentlemen, from her dressage performance at Santa Anita 2 days ago. No penalty points or time
So
points.
boy, was she cooking today.
Karen Stives, 33 years old, United States.
Teammate Mike Plum greets Karen Stives. At home, Karen and Mike work and train together, and earlier we asked them how their relationship works out in practice.
Karen and I ride together. We ride out of the same stable. We work together. She helps me, I help her. We have our difficulties sometimes, but I think we do very well to make it come out the way it does. I've had a lot more experience eventing than she has. Sometimes she doesn't realize that, and I have to remind her of it. But she's also a very smart girl and very good on the ground, and picks up things from just watching me, and it helps me a lot.
But I have to be very tactful with you, because you certainly don't like the fact, being that you're so much more experienced than I am, that I could see that you were perhaps doing something not just right.
Well, it's a matter of respect. Sometimes you don't have enough respect.
But I think that what I do see, as long as I put it properly, that you do gain from that. So I can add my 2 cents every now and then. But I think as competitors, it's not a disadvantage. Especially in a team situation, I think it'll make us stronger. I don't ever feel like I compete against Mike. I compete with him, and if I can't win, then he ought to. That's the order I put that in.
Karen Stives in the lead. Virginia Holgate of Great Britain second. Eon Stark of Great Britain is third. And Michael Plum of the United States fourth. This is a live picture of Torrance Watkins Fleischman.
The tactical situation is kind of interesting now. Diana Clapham, the third rider for Great Britain, had a fall, and it also cost her time. So she has a tough 165 penalty point score for the British team to have to carry. Torrance is coming now the slower way through the Fairbanks, but I think it's so much safer that it's the only thing to do. You can still do the optimum time even if you take this slow route through the Fairbanks.
Now we look at the team standings. The United States, #1 at this point. Sweden, #2, and France, #3. And here is the golfers' bench. 2 challenges for Torrance Fleischman.
The alternate way at the banks that we were talking about is a lot easier than the quick way, which involves a 6.5-foot drop. And we haven't seen all but maybe 1 or 2 horses go that way. So I think that most of the people we'll see now take the slow way. What's so impressive about this, Chris, is that these horses, we saw them just 2 days ago. They were in top hats and tails and looking so elegant in the dressage ring. And here they are going cross country, 24 miles an hour, jumping some very solid fences.
Will she go through the window?
She doesn't really have to.
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't even bother to bank that thing wide as it is. And he's kept all his rhythm. You've seen some horses at this stage that are starting to lose their rhythm of the galloping stride, but his galloping stride is just silken, and there's not a whole lot left of this course.
And she's got only 2 fences left, and if she can get through those 2 fences, the U.S. team is sitting in very good shape.
With Bruce Davidson yet to compete, and for Great Britain, Lucinda Green, the world champion, reigning world champion, has yet to go on the course. Look at that time, 12:32. She wants to beat 13. Torrance Watkins Fleischman here at Fairbanks Ranch, just north of San Diego, on a perfect day.
And she calls for him a little bit using her stick, and he's still there to answer her. These athletes have to be so fit.
Now 13 seconds, now 12.
The horses have gone 16 miles up to this point. Just a tremendous marathon effort. Jumps the last fence very well. She's just over the time now with 13 minutes, but she's not going to be much over the time.
That's going to be a wonderful score, and the U.S. is going to be in the catbird seat because Bruce Davidson riding last can really go for everything.
This is the man that led after dressage, but Tad Coffin, he had some problems earlier.
He certainly did, Chris. He took a real chance at fence #7. That's been giving people trouble all day long, and he just blew it. And we can say right now that the Americans are sitting in a very good position. Karen Stives at the moment is leading, and if she can keep on with that lead, she's got a real good chance for at least a silver medal. Now we'll see how Schmutz lost that gold medal on fence #7. And here he comes. You can see he tries to avoid the water by jumping from the land to the bridge, and he just takes too much of an angle and runs right down the walkway.
And he, representing Switzerland, is the only 3-day rider. So he was not going for any team score. He was going for the individual gold, having led after dressage. You know, there is water on this course, as on all 3-day eventing cross-country courses, and Tad Coffin going to give us a little lesson on how to train a horse to negotiate that problem.
We're at Black Oak Farm here in Hamilton, Massachusetts. This is Robert. He's a 7-year-old thoroughbred gelding. And he and I are going to show you how we go about teaching a horse to deal with the concept of water and how some of these Olympic horses have been taught to deal with the tremendous water jumps that are on the cross-country course. Ready, handsome? Okay, come on. Horses are domesticated nowadays to the point where we really have to reintroduce them to elements that used to be a part of their natural habitat. In order to introduce this concept of water, we start with the easiest way, and that's just walking back and forth through a stream, letting him get the feel of it, letting him come back and stand in it to show him that water is fun and that there's nothing to be afraid of. This is completely new to Robert. He has not had a lot of experience with water. In fact, he's never really been through a stream before.
He's being very good for having that little bit of experience. Next, we try to introduce him to the next higher concept, which is to jump into water. Horses' fear of water stems from really two things. One, not knowing how deep it is, and two, not knowing what the footing's like in the water and what the footing's like in the bottom of the water. As you can see, Robert wants no part of this action. We might, at a stage, use another horse, an older and more experienced horse, to go through there before him and give him a lead. That's an option that we have, but we'll try to go around the side here and see if we can get Robert to stand in the water that we want him to jump into, and so he can trust that it's all right. Horses have incredibly good memories, and it's very important as a trainer to introduce the idea of going into water to the horse so that he has fun, he gets confidence, he enjoys it. Because if he has a bad experience here, it will really wreck it for the rest of his competitive career. So now in the water, we jump out, and so now he has the idea he can jump into water and jump out of water. So we'll see if we're more successful in getting him to go in this time, and give him a little kick there for encouragement. I lost my stirrup, but quickly got it back. That happens sometimes in jumping water. You can get unseated because you're not sure what the horse is going to do. As we can see, Robert's really learned to handle this concept. He's comfortable with jumping into water and then jumping out. So now we'll make it a little difficult, more difficult, by adding a fence in front of the water and asking him to jump the fence, then jump into the water, and then jump out. And he's a little hesitant, but as you can see, he's getting the idea. Horses are such quick learners. There he's much more confident.
3 women are in the individual lead, Stives, Holgate, and Fleischman. But one is out on the course, the current world champion, Lucinda Green, on Regal Realm.
And she's just had a great fence at fence number 4, which is the Mark of Zorro. She took the corner there, which you can see is quite a gamble. She's coming up to the Crescent Oxer now, a very big fence with a 6-foot spread. She really sits back over the drop there because it's a long way down.
Well, she's just marvelous cross country, of course, as everybody knows. She's won badminton 6 times. She's the reigning world champion. And you can see why. She just lets him run and jump, and she is very, very aggressive. She's just a wonderful rider across difficult terrain.
You know, the best part about her is that the horses love her. She inspires the horses, where there are other riders that demand that the horses go, and she just inspires them to go. They love her. She's coming up to fence number 7. This has been the fence that has caused some trouble all day long today. Trots there, pops into the water, and very neatly done.
One stride, Tad.
One
top.
stride through the water
Okay.
and just bounced right up on top and off and in. These horses really have to think quick on their feet. They've never seen these jumps before. She comes around the turn, sets them up, and then he has to really figure out what exactly is in front of him. You can see his ears are pricked there. Makes a huge jump over that 6-foot wide table, handles it very well. And this horse is really cooking.
She's really horsebacking, Bill.
She really is. She just looks so comfortable going cross country, and she just lets him run and jump. She likes a more wide open course than this for that reason. She really goes over a course like badminton as if it were a racetrack. I mean, you never realize there are difficult fences there.
Another big fence, Watts Wall. 5-foot wide ditch in front of it, and he makes it look like nothing.
Bill mentioned badminton, a true test. All right. Coming out from New Zealand, we're looking at Mark Todd now on Charisma, standing 4th following dressage at Santa Anita.
And this horse and rider are a very talented combination, Chris. And here's Lucinda, and you can see she is really covering some ground. This horse is very fast. As we said, this is his forte, and this is where he shines.
She has won badminton 6 times with 6 different horses.
And Mark Todd is also a badminton winner. He's one of the few people who's challenged Lucinda's supremacy at badminton in recent years.
Lucinda coming up to the Fairbanks now. She has a choice of a quick way and a slower way, and she's opting for the slower way.
Yeah. She's got to produce a team score, Tad. Otherwise, she could really cost Great Britain a chance for a team medal.
She does that very neatly, though, makes a quick turn.
And she can run and jump so well that she can maybe be very close to the optimum time, even going the slower way there.
And again, she gives him a pet. You know, she is so terrific because she just inspires her horses. There's nobody else as a rider that does it as well as she does.
Lucinda Green of Great Britain. Repeating again, she was 22nd after the dressage phase at Santa Anita. Now the golfer's bench. 2 challenges here.
And she does that very well, Chris. Very well indeed. She has to play it safe for the team medal.
Now Mark Todd of New Zealand.
Carrying a big head of steam, and he, of course, is really could challenge for his individual medal. He's in a very, very strong position after his excellent dressage phase.
You know, I've been concentrating on the 3 ladies in the lead, Stives, Holgate, and Fleischman. Eon Stark of Great Britain is 4th, and Mike Plum, the United States, 5th.
And Bruce Davidson is still to come. There are some people who can really move up into the individual medals.
The interesting thing about Mark Todd and Charisma, and a good jump there, is that Mark Todd is 6'1", and Charisma is very small. He's much smaller than most of the horses out here.
Is it true that Mark Todd weighs 176 pounds?
Well, that seems quite a lot. And here's Lucinda jumping up the waterfalls. There she is over the second one, doing it very easily, and coming out over the vertical in fine form. That was very well done.
And Mark Todd.
And he's coming down to fence number 7. And this, again, is the fence that's caused a lot of difficulty. This is where Hans-Willy Schmutz lost the gold medal. Pops into the water. Very quick reaction on the part of the horse. And there's Lucinda over the hayrack. She's lost her stirrup, but we won't ever worry about that with Lucinda. She's so quick.
Should have no problem with the timber wagon coming up.
No, that's really been a fence that's ridden very well all day today. It's just a nice big fence. It actually gives the horses back their confidence if they've lost it.
Our estimate of 50,000 spectators have come out here, and they have moved around on this 4.5-mile course, and what they have seen is beauty. They have seen great physical effort on the part of the horse and the rider.
And here's Lucinda at the ski jump. Again, a 6-foot drop, 2 short strides, slips the reins, pops right down, very neatly onto the bank. She is terrific.
And will she burn it from here on home?
She will cook, I tell you.
2 of the classiest performers in the world on the course at the same time.
Lucinda Green of Great Britain. And now we're back to Mark Todd of New Zealand.
He's coming to the Candelabra, which is an interesting fence. It looks like it would be difficult to ride, but they jump in between the trees without any problem. Back on Lucinda. She's at the Osuna brand, which is an interesting turning problem. 3 oxers in a row. Jumps very well there. She's having a terrific go, don't you think, Bill?
She surely is, and you can see why this combination could win a world championship or an Olympic gold medal if everything broke right for them.
And Mark Todd has charisma as well.
And he's coming down to another quite interesting fence. It's called the Rattlesnake. And it's a fence that if it's done on a short stride and very neatly done, it can save you a lot of time. And Mark Todd is taking the quick way. Is a little awkward over the last part of the fence, but still nonetheless, he's still clean.
Lucinda starts now the journey home.
And she's really turning on the afterburners.
And look at the time.
She's very fast. She's coming up just on 11 minutes. And we need to get her under 13 minutes if she wants no time penalty.
And Bill, Karen Stives was under 13 today on Ben Arthur.
She was. She's standing on her dressage score, and she had a nicer dressage score to stand on than Lucinda does. So Karen is in the individual lead right at this moment.
Mark Todd coming to the western town. This is a big effort for a little horse. 6-foot wide table, but I must say he's not making it look like a very big effort out here.
Yeah, the horse people in the audience will know that he's 15.3 hands high, that a hand is 4 inches, so he is a little horse, but he rides big, and that's what counts.
And he has to carry 165 pounds, as they all must do, in order to be equal. That's the handicap. We know racehorses need to go not very far, and they only have to carry 126 pounds.
That's the
around there.
That's the weight for, say, the Kentucky Derby, 126 pounds.
And Lucinda is going very well. 2 fences from home. She's up on 12 minutes now, and I don't think there's going to be a problem with her making the time.
Well,
she's
she's
having just a terrific go.
Style and technique of the horse and the rider. Now you can see why she is the reigning world champion.
And she not only is the reigning world champion, but she has won more international three-day events than anybody else in the history of the sport.
And she's letting them ramble now.
Just the flags and flowers remaining. That is the last fence in this group of 33. And what a choice for the most physical of all equestrian sports, the cross-country phase, the second phase of the three-day event in choosing Fairbanks Ranch.
Safely over the last, inside the time. I think Lucinda is home high and dry on the cross-country today.
And that's going to put a little bit of pressure on Bruce Davidson now, because the English have a very good score. They can afford now to drop the score of Diana Clapham, and that's going to put a little bit more pressure on the Americans.
Mark Todd of New Zealand continued to ride well on the cross-country course and went on to finish clean within the time allowed. He ended the day in second place, just 2.4 penalty points behind Karen Stives of the USA in the individual competition, with the show jumping phase yet to come. Well, Charisma had to scramble a little on the ski jump, but the rest was clear sailing for him and Mark Todd.
Coming into Ghost Town for the United States, Bruce Davidson. He'll have ghosts of what happened to 7A and B for the rest of his life.
That was really, really tough. What a disappointment. You know, Bruce has won the World Championships twice. He's been looking for the Olympic gold medal. He was certainly in a position to win it today, and he just was disappointed. The horse made a little bobble in the water, just couldn't get out of it.
But he may collect an Olympic gold medal still, Tad, because the team looks to be in a pretty strong position.
We'll have a look at it in slow motion. Here he comes into the water. He looks good up to this point. A lot of splashing there. The horse bobbled here on the landing. Bruce did a good job of picking him up, but when he got up on top, the horse's hind legs didn't quite make it. It stopped all of his momentum, and even though he asked for the jump into the water, he just didn't have the steam to do it. And that is really a disappointment.
That is 20 points. So, Tad, right now it's Karen Stives, Bruce's teammate, who is at the top of the list. Of course, remembering that in 2 days show jumping at Santa Anita. This is a three-phase competition.
She can feel happy here, but not too comfortable. As you remember, back in 1976, the German Karl Schulz was in front of me and had 2 rails down, which cost him the gold.
And Karen doesn't have even 1 rail to play with because she's got Mark Todd of New Zealand breathing right down her neck.
Bruce going down to the last.
Karen is at the moment at 49.2 penalty points, and Mark Todd is only 51.6. That's less than 1 rail down. 5 penalty points for a rail down in show jumping.
Jumps the flags and flowers, and he's just nipping under the, no, just over the time of 13:02. And considering that he had a stop, which not only cost him time penalty, jumping penalties, but also a loss of time, he really did a tremendous job to make that time up.
Well, he kept the composure himself and that of the horse, J.G. Babu, and gives him that pat of appreciation despite what happened at 7.
The nature of a true competitor.
There's a close battle for both individual and team honors. The individual leader is Karen Stives of the United States. As expected, the team battle is between the United States and Great Britain.
What an event that is. It really takes the all-around rider to do the dressage, then this cross-country event, and 2 days from now, as Chris mentioned, to go into the show ring for show jumping. But when you see it being done extremely well, it's hard to realize just how dangerous and how difficult the cross-country event is. Why don't we take a look at some people who are not as fortunate today. This was in today's competition at Fairbanks Ranch. First of all, we're seeing Diana Clapham of Great Britain. Okay, into the water all right. Up and into the drink. Embarrassing? Well, could be worse than that. Now here we have Michael Pettersson of Sweden. Michael Pettersson of Sweden seems to be doing all right. dangerous. The horse's neck, it looked like hit that post sticking up, apparently no cut. This is Armando Ramira of Mexico. Again, that same water, that was where Bruce Davison had his problem, and very much, just about the worst fall of the day, but Armando was fortunate. He did not get under the horse. Andrew Benny of New Zealand, finally, losing the horse, being dragged by the reins. That can be extremely dangerous, but he pulls up his mount.
Santa Anita Park was the scene of the final show jumping phase of the three-day event. The outcome of both the team and the individual competitions came down to the last two riders, Mark Todd and Karen Stives. Once again, here are Chris Schenkel and Tad Coffin.
The show jumping ring, half-mile course, 12 obstacles, 15 jumping efforts. Mark Todd of New Zealand, standing second.
And a true test of versatility for this little horse, and what courage he demonstrated, what a heart he had. Feeling the effects from the long endurance phase, he rubbed 3 of the last 4 fences, but they all stayed up with some brilliant riding from Mark Todd, and he went on to keep his second place.
Barely making the time, but what a beautiful round for the 28-year-old New Zealander. And last to ride in the three-day event from the United States, Karen Stives.
And the pressure was really on her. If she pulled a rail down, it would cost her the individual gold and give it to Mark Todd. 2 rails down, it would cost the U.S. team the team gold medal. She managed to keep the rail up for the team gold, but unfortunately, she came to grief here in the middle of the last combination, just pulling a rail with the front leg, and gave the individual gold to New Zealander Mark Todd. Karen really did a superb job with this horse, but he was probably feeling the effects from yesterday and just wasn't sharp enough for a double clear.
A full house at Santa Anita Park, savoring this spectacular event and the performance of Mark Todd, the 28-year-old dairy farmer from New Zealand. Karen Stives of the United States wins the silver medal. Virginia Holgate of Great Britain, the bronze. And in the team competition, the United States held on to its slim lead over Great Britain. Great Britain with the silver, West Germany, bronze. Karen Stives, an individual silver and a member of that gold medal winning team. For the United States, a repeat of the gold team medal at Montreal, and a medal performance equaling that of the United States team at the 32 games here in Los Angeles, a team gold and an individual silver.
And with so many brilliantly courageous horses and riders, it was a great day for equestrian sport.
This is the arena where today the most recognizable, possibly the most exciting of all the equestrian events will be contested. It's team show jumping here as you look at 15 colorfully painted fences with a great deal of variety. And it's a horticulturist's dream come true with all the flowers and plants that are adjacent to all of those jumps. This is team competition. Individual competition comes on Sunday. It's a beautiful sport, and we're delighted to be here again with Bill Steinkraus. Get this, over the years, an individual gold and in team competition in the Olympic Games, 2 silvers and a bronze. And Bill, I know you're impressed with the course that a friend of yours has set up for the world to test.
Chris, this is the day the riders live for, all the riders. It's really the big casino of the whole thing because the individual only maybe 12 or 15 people have a realistic chance of winning it. Everybody can play his role today. It's not so much the riders against each other or even nations against each other. It's riders against the course. And those 15 obstacles have 18 different jumps in them. The 18 jumps might as well be 18 golf holes. And in the same sense that a great tournament golf course is a complete test of the golfer, this course is a complete test of the horseback rider.
Well, let's see what might cause some faults as we join Bill Steinkraus, who earlier walked a portion of this course at Santa Anita.
I'm standing at the big 3 combination on this Prize of Nations course, 12A, B, C. And it's a combination that has to be ridden very accurately. If I land where I want over the first big oxer, which is going to be about right here, and I take one 12-foot stride, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, I end up in a pretty good spot for the triple bar. If I don't say go to him a little bit, I could land in the middle of that triple bar. This shouldn't cause a problem for the good riders, but for the riders who are just sitting there, it might be difficult. I land over this triple bar about here. I take 2 strides. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. They would be 12-foot strides. Again, I get to a pretty good spot for the big oxer. But if I haven't said go and kept the horse's impulsion up, I could have trouble with the big oxer too. The three combination rides pretty well, but it has to be ridden. Now I'm standing in the middle of this very difficult last line, 13, 14, 15. 13, the wall to the two gates, 14 AB, is not such a bad distance. It's really very nice and sets you up for this combination. But if you only sit still when you jump 14A, look what happens to you. You take two strides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and you're dead up against 14B. What you have to do is to check somewhere in this combination. You land over 14A and you take now two very short strides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And if you check in these two strides between 14A and 14B, you can jump 14B from here and you can come through it clean. They're very big, but the distance has to be ridden as a difficult distance.
In the first round, the big course took its toll of most of the riders of the 15 countries entered in the team competition. Fritz Ligas of West Germany took the three combination apart in spectacular fashion. Ferdy Titeka of Belgium also splintered the redwood rails, while his teammate, Axel Verloof, didn't make it all the way through the challenging combination. The final line took its toll of many riders, too. Eric Navet of France on Jatador didn't help the French team with his stop right here. Other fences on the huge course claimed their victims, too. Fence number 9 met Bruno Scolari of Italy. And the horse headed for the barn. The four members of the United States team fared better. First to go in the first round was Joe Farges on Touch of Class, Bill Steinkraus, and Chris Schenkel.
He pulls the trigger. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, and listen to the crowd. They love that mare. Touch of Class, and she's showing it up to this point.
That's right. The audience goes so wild that could be a little distraction for these horses because they really are cheering the American horses and riders.
Time allowed, 119 seconds. He's up to 108 seconds right now at 15. He's going to break the barrier at 112 seconds, .94. More important, a clear, sensational round for Joe Farges.
Le résultat du numéro 304-27 des États-Unis, sans faute.
Leslie Burr on Albany was the second rider to go for the United States. She went well over the difficult course.
In okay. Out okay. Coming to the last fence clear.
Her time is sensational. She 4 penalty points.
With the three best of the 4-team scores to count, Leslie's ride put the United States into a strong position. Conrad Homfeld, next to go for the United States, was clean past the water.
He a little bit, oh heavens, he was a little bit divey over that, and it comes down. It was wider than he expected it to be. Now Conrad has to hustle through the big three combination. But does that just perfectly. Very solid technician. This is a tough line now. Let's see how Conrad executes this technically. Horse very well put together, coming to it just in an ideal form. Jumps the wall. Conrad really shortens.
Oh, lucky there. Rolling in the rocker, but not going down.
Last fence, and it comes down too, so Conrad finishes with 8 faults. Not a bad score still.
Melanie Smith was the anchor person for the United States team. A veteran of many international competitions and winner of the World Cup in 1982, Melanie on Calypso started a very strong ride.
Melanie is a free swinger, I would say. There's no pressure that ever gets to her. Jumps the wall beautifully, sets him up for this two combination. This is tough. Jumps in.
Touched it.
Jumps out. One more fence to go. And
you're looking at a
clear round for Melanie. The U.S. team finishes the first round with only 4 penalty points, and we're going to be in front. The U.S. team is going to be in front at the end of the first round, no matter what.
The United States maintained its wide lead over the field in round 2. Joe Fargas had yet another clear round, and Leslie Burr with Albany collected only 8 faults. Conrad Homfeld was next.
Now moving into the arena here at Santa Anita, and greeted very warmly by the capacity crowd, standing room only, from the United States, Conrad Homfeld and his 14-year-old gray stallion, Abdullah. Beautiful combination on this late afternoon here in Arcadia, California. It's a pretty sight there, Bill, moving along and moving into position now to attack the first of the 15 fences.
It's been such a thrilling day and such a beautiful day. The course is a good-looking course, but far more important, technically, it's been a marvelous course that has exposed any little crack in the rider's armor. The good riders have been able to cope with it. If there was one little error that you made, it would cost you 4 faults. I'm sure it hurts Conrad's pride that he had 2 fences down in the morning with Abdullah, because Abdullah was one of the most consistent horses all through the Olympic trials, and this is an outstanding combination of horse and rider. Let's see if they can improve on the score they had this morning of 8 faults, which proved to be the discard score.
His friend and teammate, Joe Fargas, 2 clear rounds today for the United States team.
But Leslie Burr, riding second, had 8 faults with Albany, so it would be nice to be able to erase that 8-fault score with something a little bit better.
At 7.
Very good so far.
Abdullah is the name of the horse. Conrad Homfeld.
Conrad really makes a big move to get him reorganized there. He's had trouble taking him back, and so he didn't ride so aggressively this morning.
Oh.
He was a little bit afraid to say go to him for fear he might get strong. I like the way he's going this afternoon better than I did in the morning round. Conrad is riding him more aggressively, saying, come on there, Abdullah. And Abdullah responds.
And that's the combination that these fans have enjoyed all day, starting at 10 a.m. this morning Pacific time.
Coming to the last line, if he jumps this thing cleanly, the gold medal is gone, and it's gone to the United States. Steady there, Abdullah. He rubbed that. Exciting. One more fence to go.
An oxer.
And there is no way to catch the U.S. of A. That is the gold medal.
Clear round today. Joe Fargas of the United States 2, Melanie Smith 1, and now Conrad Homfeld. And listen to these fans.
Yeah, you think they enjoyed the day today, Chris? You talk about a stylish performance under pressure. That was a beautiful performance.
The United States team made Olympic history, winning its first Olympic team jumping gold medal in overwhelming fashion.
By Madame Claude Fonseca, member of
Great Britain edged out West Germany for the silver medal. 12 penalties was the lowest score ever to be recorded by a 2-round winning team, and never had a winning team's 4th rider, Melanie Smith, not have to go in the 2nd round. In fact, the United States had the widest margin ever of victory over the runner-up teams. Santa Anita next became the stage for the elegance and precision of dressage. Team dressage took place first, with the top 12 riders going on to compete in Grand Prix Special individual competition.
Dressage has often been compared to the compulsory exercises in gymnastics or in figure skating. The rule book says that the object of dressage is the harmonious development of the physique and ability of the horse. And those are simple words, but behind those simple words lie really a very complex thought. You take the natural movements of the horse and you perfect them to the highest possible degree of refinement, and you also perfect all of the movements that the horse can derive from his natural gaits, and that's pretty difficult.
So, Bill, and ladies and gentlemen, why don't we join Robert Dover, a member of the United States dressage team, who will explain it a little bit more.
Robert, how did you get started in dressage?
At about the age of 12, I was living next door to a young girl who was interested in dressage, and she took me with her to the farm that she was riding at, and I was hooked from there on in.
Tell us a little bit about Romantico. How old is he, and where did he come from, and what do you think of his character and personality?
Romantico is a 10-year-old Rhinelander from West Germany. He was imported to the United States 2.5 years ago, and I've been riding him ever since. And he's a horse with a great amount of talent, especially in some of the hardest movements for dressage riding, and a horse with a super character as well.
Tell us about some of the movements that you were performing, Robert, with the piaffe and the passage and the transition between them. What's difficult about them, and what problem do they present to the rider?
The piaffe and the passage are the two of the most difficult movements that we have in dressage riding, because they take the greatest amount of energy and balance at the same exact moment, and the horse has to be totally responsive to the rider's aids. So coming from the passage, which is a floating, airy, engaged trot, to a piaffe, which is trotting actually on the spot, you have to prepare the horse without showing that you're making any changes of your weight or your aids.
Tell us a little bit about the flying changes of lead at the canter, especially the one-tempo changes.
The changes of lead in the canter, where the horse changes his leading foreleg by the rider's change of the use of legs, is also a very difficult movement, especially when you get down to the changes of every stride. And we have to perform 15 of them in a row on the diagonal line, and they have to be straight, they have to be reaching forward, and they have to be really engaged from the hind end. So it's a difficult movement, and it takes a great deal of timing from the rider and the horse.
Is it difficult to coordinate your aids? You say it takes a great deal of timing because you have to change your aids every stride, just as the horse is changing the leg he's leading with every stride. Does it take a long time to learn how to do that?
It takes a long time, both for the horse and the rider, and training of the horse takes between, say, 4 and 6 years. So you can imagine how long it takes to perfect these changes of stride at every lead.
On the first of 2 days of team dressage, riders from 18 nations were represented in the competition. Robert Dover of the United States, a young man with a young horse with tremendous promise, led off for the United States, Bill.
And how impressively he started, Chris. He really is a beautiful horse, and Robert is a very, very promising young rider. I think the judges at the beginning, looking at the medium trot, and especially medium trot almost looked like an extended trot, and here we see it across the diagonal. What a wonderful horse. I think they didn't know what was going to come. They thought it might be a very big score.
5 international judges watching the competition.
Scoring on a scale of 10, they never give out 10s, they give out 6s and 7s and occasionally 8s. Robert's one-tempo changes went even better than they'd gone in practice. They were rhythmical, they were accurate, they were very, very successfully performed. Curiously enough, the canter work, which had thought to be really a weakness in Romantico, on the whole went very well, except for the pirouettes. His passage went very well, but in the very difficult transitions from the passage, this highly elevated, highly cadenced trot, to the piaffe, which is the collected trot in place, Romantico and Robert ran into some trouble today. Getting into the piaffe, sometimes he kind of missed a beat, and he had a little tendency to get stuck in the piaffe. There's good engagement, but for some reason it was hard for him to make the transition out, and that cost him serious points today. And Chris, remember, this is really a European sport. For the United States to make headway in dressage, where the Europeans have centuries of advantage over us, it's quite a triumph if the United States can even be 5th and 6th place in world competition. By the end of the day, Robert had scored 1,513 points, leaving him right in the middle of the 22 horses who performed today, and he impressed everyone.
Teammate Sandy Pfluger-Clark on Marco Polo scored 3 points more than Robert Dover. And in a wonderful comeback, Hilda Gurney on Keene had an even higher score, giving the United States 6th place.
Here is Hilda with an 18-year-old massive chestnut thoroughbred named Keen. This is an all-California group, Bill.
This has been just a wonderful horse, as you know, Chris. He had a serious problem. He was very, very ill, and it was thought a couple years ago that he would never compete again. But when we saw him start out today and saw that really beautiful medium trot, the same one that we always enjoyed so much, we knew it was almost the same old Keen. At 18, doing a miraculous thing to have come back from such a serious illness.
5 international judges doing subjective judging from as many locations around this rectangle, and they marked 0 to 10 on 39 movements. And late in the day, this was Hilda Gurney.
One of the most brilliant movements this horse had was his passage and his piaffe and the transitions between them, and they were still there. His passage really looked still very elegant and very cadenced, and he could still make very good transitions into the passage. Here was Robert Dover, teammate of Hilda Gurney's, along with Sandy Pfluger-Clark. It was in the canter work, however, that he had problems. The one-tempo changes started brilliantly, but then he missed 3 of them in a row, and I would say with those blown one-tempo changes, the chances of a really good score for Keen and the chances for a place in the individual ride-off disappeared.
Hilda Gurney and Keen. Keen, who had been laid up 4 years because of injuries, ligament, back. But returning in competition with an old friend, Hilda Gurney.
As expected, the Federal Republic of Germany, led by Dr. Rainer Klimke, won the team gold medal with Switzerland second and Sweden third. Denmark's Anna Greta Jensen on Marzog had the second highest individual score in the team competition and was expected to challenge Dr. Rainer Klimke for the individual gold medal.
Anna Greta Jensen is the current European champion, where Dr. Rainer Klimke from West Germany is the current world champion. And it became apparent in the Grand Prix, which was the competition for the team dressage medals, that the individual medals would come down really to these two. In the team competition, Dr. Klimke led by almost 100 points over Anna Greta Jensen. And the question was, in the individual, if she could narrow that margin or even conceivably pass Dr. Klimke. Marzog appeared to be in very, very good form. His half passes were regular, the bending correct, bent in the direction in which he's moving, and she obviously had her nerves under excellent control.